What's up, everybody? Welcome to the broadcast. Today is an easy day, but I figured I would take you guys along with me anyway. I've just got to run down to the yard and I'm going to go over some things with you guys that I do when I have equipment that's going to be sitting a week or two, especially in the winter time, and it's going to be kind of wet here and freezing and thawing. I'm going to go over what I do to kind of help protect the pins and bushings on all the moving parts of my equipment, and it'll just be a quick little rundown. We'll see you guys at the yard. Man, I'm going to tell you guys what, we have really blown up. This channel, the average number of new subscribers up until this month was like 400, 450. We've actually went 2.1 thousand more subscribers in just 28 days. So for all you guys who are new to the channel, welcome. I'm a small guy just doing small light excavation and grading, and welcome to the channel. I'm really excited to have every single one of you. This is a good opportunity for me to introduce you guys to my crew. I'm a one-man show, but I couldn't do it without the right equipment. Right here is Wilbur, my Ford 1985 L9000 single axle dump truck. It is a 9000, so I suspect maybe it used to be a tandem and it got chopped. This little guy has a 10-liter Cummins engine, and he has been an integral part of growing our little company. My first truck was a 1975 F700, and man, was it a piece. But this little gem, he's really what kicked things off. So all you guys who are asking what's the first piece of equipment that I would buy, as far as truly what's going to get you going, is a dump truck. Everything else you can easily rent. So this is my baby boy. This guy right here is Big Orange. He's a 2015 M7060 Kubota tractor with loader, and I recently just picked up an 8-foot box blade that you guys are going to be seeing in action a lot, especially this coming summer working on driveways. I had to get the enclosed cab because my first tractor, I didn't have one, and unfortunately my allergies got so bad that I couldn't hardly bush hog. So with this cab, Kubota knocked it out of the park. I can bush hog all day long in the tallest of weeds and briars, and it really not hurt my allergies that bad. And this little guy right here is Old Yeller, my Yanmar Vayo 80 excavator. He weighs in right at 20,000 pounds. I usually run the 3-foot bucket on him, and when we're doing forestry mulching, I run the Fecon FMX 36 mulching head. Recently, we just got in a 60-inch Bushmaster rotary style cutter, which I'm super stoked to put that thing into action, dive it into some brush, and show you guys what it can do. And to date, the rental company that I ordered my tilt bucket from called me and said our 48-inch tilt grading bucket just came in. Tomorrow they're going to get the hoses put on it and the case drain on the Bushmaster, and we'll be able to pick them up tomorrow, or maybe when we get back week after next from Christmas vacation. I am beyond stoked for these two additions, and with them I'm going to be able to teach you guys, the new guys especially, some easier ways to kick off your light excavation, grading, land clearing, and demolition company. This little toter right here is the Southeastern Land Specialist slash Digging Life flagship. It's a 2019 Ford F750. We've had kind of a love-hate relationship, but he's turning out to be a really good little truck. Doesn't have that much torque, but he's got plenty of horsepower, and his name is Orville. Together, the two dump trucks are Orville and Wilbur. I suppose I should not leave out Rambo, my rapid response vehicle. He's my estimator. He's what gets me around town. He's what shuttles me to and from the job sites when we're not running the dump truck, and he too is a rolling billboard. Now, you guys who are fresh to the business and you're trying to kick things off, your image is the biggest thing. You, yourself, and your vehicles. The rear end of your vehicle, I think, is the most important because it's what gets stared at the most by the general public. The sides, you're zipping by, you're passing by cars, they may be passing by you, but that rear end is what people have the most time to read. So don't pay attention to exactly how I did it. I'm more of an established person. What I would recommend you guys do is put your company name little bitty and leave as much room as you can for making your list of services and your phone number as big as possible, because that is what tells the customer what you do and how you can help them. So just to kind of like run around, I'm just going to take you guys with me through each piece of equipment. I'm going to tell you what my plan is for them while I'm out of town on vacation. Number one, I'm going to give Wilbur a quick check of the oil because he sits a lot. But that doesn't mean that one of the seals couldn't go bad or dry rot and it slowly leaked down. And I would hate for this truck to sit for a couple of weeks and then I need him and he doesn't have any oil. And then we're just dead in the water. When I check my oils, I check to make sure that it is black and it does not smell burnt. A burnt smell to your oil is a sign of something going wrong. Now this truck's been sitting a lot, so what I'm gonna do while I'm prepping all the other equipment, greasing and stuff, I'm just gonna crank this truck up and let it idle. This being an older truck, I'm definitely going to wait. After I start it, I'm gonna make sure my oil pressure comes up pretty quickly. There it is. It's normal with these older trucks, especially one with a lot of compression to it. When it's cooler and cold weather, they don't turn over as easy, but I was paying attention to make sure that it didn't hesitate once I hit the starter, that it started strong, as if the batteries had plenty of charge. Cold weather has a tendency to kill low charged batteries. I went in and closed the hood because it'll help hold heat in from that engine and it'll warm up a little bit quicker. Same thing with Big Orange. He tends to sit a lot. He doesn't get operated nearly as much as the Excavator. So the biggest thing with him is the tires. This tractor has fluid filled tires and I have the cast iron weights. So that's a whole lot of weight mashing down on those tires and it'll actually flat spot them. So in colder weather and even in the summer, I will relocate the tractor to a different part of the yard just to get those tires from sitting on the same spot. Check the oil. Even though it's a newer machine and it has never ever lost any oil, eventually any machine is either going to start burning oil or it's going to start leaking oil, and you don't want to wait until it's leaked out and blown the engine before you realize it. So even on every piece of equipment that I have, I check the oil daily. Now the plan for the F-750 and the trailer, since I'm going to be out of town for a whole week, there's no point in this stuff just sitting here. It's actually very close to due for a PM, which is preventative maintenance. And that's something you guys want to keep up with if you're new to this business. Doing your preventative maintenance prevents breakdowns. Breakdowns cost you a lot more money than putting a machine down just to have prevention done. So I'm going to crank old Yeller up. I'm going to let him get warmed up, and I'll go through my normal warm-up exercises with the Excavator while it's sitting on the trailer. And that's just moving all the hydraulics through their full ranges of motion, anywhere from 4 to 6 times, and it helps heat that hydraulic fluid up and gets it ready to move. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and lift the mulching head off and set it off to a corner of the yard where it can't very easily be seen. That head right there cost about $22,000. I don't want to just leave it on the trailer and have it sitting at the truck stop for a whole week, even though they have security cameras. It's just inviting a problem. I don't want them to have to be responsible for it. So we're going to unload it, set it off, And then that way, come Friday, I can just take the truck and the trailer to the truck shop to get all its PM maintenance done. All right, my friends, for those of you who are brand new to this, maybe never even been around equipment, this is a grease gun. You will want to familiarize yourself with it, know how to load the tube in it, and know how to adjust this tip. And I've actually got a video on just grease guns. Surprisingly enough, just go to my channel, go to the search bar, type in grease gun, and there's a video that goes over everything. And there are different sizes of grease zerks. What's a grease zerk or fitting? I will show you. A grease fitting is this little guy. I always wipe it clean before I grease it. And the easiest way to find these on any machine is anywhere there's the end of a cylinder. There's gonna be either a grease fitting on the head of the cylinder or on the pin. Same thing here. If you look at a loader, all the pins go in this way for the most part. So you've got a fitting here, 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 and anywhere the cylinder connects on both ends of that cylinder, there is a pin that goes through, and there will be a grease fitting. These are extremely important. This is really very simple. It's the simplest operation you can do as far as maintenance goes on your equipment. Now the tip of this actually spins, and the tighter you tighten it down, the smaller of a fitting it will fit. And you want this to just kind of pop on. See, I've got too tight, so I've got to loosen him up a little, and it's on there. It don't pull off very easy. Now I'm just going to give 2 full pumps. 1, 2. The reason I had to do an extra one is because I just loaded a new tube in here and I had to work the air out. Now another way you can tell is as you pump this, you're going to hear a little pop, and I'll show you that in a minute. But on this one, to get this off, you don't pull it straight out, you just rock it and it'll pop right off. You'll see people with these and they're just pulling for everything they're worth, and all you have to do, rock it and it'll pop right off. Now I know there's some background noise from the highway. I'm gonna wipe my grease fitting clean because grit and dirt collect on this little ball bearing that lets the grease go into it. And I don't necessarily want to pump grease with grit into that joint. So I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna let you guys listen for that little pop. Did you hear that? So really 1 pump was enough, but I'm gonna go ahead and do my 2. And you can hear that grease squishing through there. As you guys can see on this loader, it has a progressive link, which allows this cylinder to be able to push and dump this bucket even farther than as if this cylinder was just hooked directly to the bucket. But for each linkage, there's an additional pin and bushings. So you have to grease every one of those. Just on this one part here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 grease fittings. Now also here, as I said, at the end of the cylinder, there's a grease fitting. It's not in the end, it's hidden under here. And sometimes you have to move your loader through a range of motion to be able to get those fittings lined up to easily get this grease gun hooked up to the fitting. Well, since I'm doing such a detailed kind of storage type go over, this is also something I check every day when I grease my equipment. These bolts are pin keepers. They go through the bushing and through a hole in the pin. If you lose one of these and that pin works its way out of one of those bushings, but you keep working it, it will warp that pin, and then you have a problem. You may get that pin out easily, then again it may be warped and you have to cut it out, and it's not fun. So just make sure that this bolt is not bent. And one thing that will shear those off is if you don't grease these and it sits for a while and that pin locks up in this eye, when you go to work actuate that cylinder, it will want to twist that pin possibly, and it can shear that bolt. You know how I know? Because it's happened to me twice on my excavator. I lose the pin keeper out of the pin that holds the cylinder to the thumb itself, and that pin will work its way out, and sure as the world, there's enough pressure there, it'll bend that pin and you'll never get it back in. And I think it's like a $50 pin or something. Very unfortunate. I got all of my fittings, pins, bushings greased. Now I'm just going to slowly go through the full range of motion with the loader up and down and the bucket tilt, not necessarily in that order. As I said before, sometimes there's grease fittings, and these two fittings grease these locks that unlock my bucket. So to get to those easily, I like tilting my bucket all the way under. I'll hit those with grease, and then I'll set my bucket down. I will unlock these, I will cycle them a couple of times, and they'll be good to go. And just so you know, that's very similar to any skid steer locks for the buckets. So you can, if it's a mechanical lock where you do it by hand, it'll be the same. And I'm pretty sure if it's a hydraulic quick coupler, they'll have the same fittings. All right, friends, so you can see I haven't cycled this, and I pulled it straight out, and you can see there's a nice red coat of grease almost all the way around this top side. But the reason we're going to cycle is as we pulled it up, the excess grease that was held in slid down that pin. Let's see where we're at. I like using the Lucas red and tacky grease. It's just always worked good for me. Now see, this pin over here does not have as good of a coating, but you can see that this side works really well. Now this side, it's a little bit stiffer. So what I'm going to do, the first time I greased them, these were locked. I'm going to unlock them and grease them both again. We'll get this thing slicked up, and you don't necessarily have to give it 2 more pumps. Did you hear that pop? Oh yeah, working a lot better now. This type of thing, loader components, you cannot over grease it. The pins and bushings are not sealed, and there's no rubber seals to blow out. So grease her all you want. That's still a little bit stiff, but I don't take this bucket off a lot, so these pins don't get moved in and out, but they do get pressure put on them. So you still want to grease them. I've had thoughts to get a third function valve put on this machine, this tractor, so I can run a brush grapple, but I would say that I'm going to end up buying a skid steer before I do that, and I think it'll just be a lot more useful. I'm happy with that. So we leave these unlocked, hook our bucket back up, and this machine will be good to go. Easy, easy, easy. I just visually checked to make sure that those locking pins were down and through, and you can feel those handles cam over when they lock into position. Another thing I do, just because I've heard it from the old timers, is I park with my bucket tilted down. This loader does not leak down ever, once it's like this. And the reason for that is a couple of weeks I'm out of town, I don't want this bucket to fill up with water and sit, because 1, it'll rust your bucket, and 2, if you get it full of water and that water freezes really, really hard, it could potentially split the welds. I've never seen it happen, but why take the chance? Before I go over the excavator, which I'm not going to do it as in depth because it's similar to the loader on the tractor. On almost every dump truck, if it's a good one, you've got grease fittings on this big pin, this big pivot pin for the dump bed. Keep those greased. Most people I know grease their dump bed weekly, but if you're doing, I would think, a lot of on-site really quick shuttles and you're just moving hundreds of loads of dirt, I would grease it every day. It's not gonna hurt. Gotta love having an excavator. I always say it's like a really strong employee. Because I'm poor, I'm gonna go ahead and throw all my binders, chains, and straps in the bucket of my excavator, and I'm gonna take them and dump them off to the edge of my yard to where even though I know where I'm gonna dump them, it would be hard to see them. That way, this thing's not just sitting at the truck stop overnight for a week or maybe even a week and a half, and somebody just zips through there and steals all my chains and binders. At anywhere from $50 to $100 each. I can afford that. Taking my chunk blocks too. To just make it short and sweet, I'm gonna go through every pivot point, find every grease fitting, grease this excavator, and call the equipment ready. There it is, folks. Right or wrong, agree or disagree, that is how I prep my equipment for sitting a week or more. The only thing I can think of to also tell you, and I encourage you to do this on your job sites, familiarize yourself with each piece of equipment as far as what it takes to start it. One of the easiest things to do to make theft of something a little tougher on somebody is usually inside the cab of one of these enclosed cab machines is your fuse panel. And you can pull your fuel relay, which runs the fuel pump, starter relay, power cutoff. Usually there's a little on-off for the main power start. And in the engine compartment, usually if it's carbureted, close to the carburetor, or the fuel pump, there's a fuel cutoff. Cut that off, it may start up, but it's gonna run out of fuel pretty quickly. If you pull the relays or the fuses, just pull them out, take them with you, or hide them somewhere, and that's gonna make it difficult enough to where somebody gets in it, they try to hot wire it, and it doesn't just start. More than likely, they're not gonna wanna stick around and work on the thing. They're going to get out of there because obviously they don't want to get caught. And two, they're lazy, they're thieves, they just want a quick buck. They don't want to work for it. Use that to your advantage, secure your equipment. Thank you guys for joining me on this. Hopefully for you experienced guys, I didn't just bore the devil out of you. And for you new beginners, those who are just totally unfamiliar with this stuff, you can learn this equipment. You can learn to use it. How well you get to use it does depend on your natural ability and your willingness to keep after it. It's taken me years to get to where I'm at, and there is definitely room for me to improve. Thanks again for joining me, guys. I hope you're having a great day, and it's because of viewers just like you that I'm having a great day. Thank you guys for the support. Our channel is growing way faster than I could have ever imagined, and again, thank you. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.